Hello, I'm Fabrizio Nevola, Professor of Art History and Visual Culture here at the University of Exeter. My research interests broadly fall into the area known as Renaissance studies. I'm interested in how art and architecture come together with people to create perhaps the most complex work of art of all, a city. My most recent book is called Street Life in Renaissance Italy and was published last year by Yale University Press. You wouldn't necessarily think that street life is the subject of art history, and my approach is in fact shaped by the department within which I work, art history and visual culture. It's a subject that I lead here at Exeter. Our broad interests are in the visual in all its permutations, from past to present, from artworks in museums to the visual culture and visual media that's created and shared in all aspects of the world we live in today. We're neither bound by time or place. We work on international art, past and present, and regularly adopt critical standpoints to the subject as it's studied elsewhere. In my own work, I tend to favour an approach that connects up actions of people in the built environment to the artefacts that are the subject of art and architectural research. Where possible, I'm interested in rethinking how we describe the life of an object, especially complex objects such as buildings and cities. As almost any of us know, we all live in a house, the history of a building only starts when it is built. Most of the interesting things happen when people live in them, when the builders and architects have left the scene. Some of my more recent work adopts digital methodologies. So, for example, in the video that you can see here, we're reconfiguring the building history of a demolished late medieval building and its paintings, with a team of researchers here at Exeter and my colleague Donald Cooper at Cambridge. San Pier Maggiore, and this is the church that we're modelling here, was a vast Benedictine nunnery in the centre of Florence. It was demolished in the 19th century to make way for a covered market. And in the scan that you're seeing on screen, we're basically looking for features that survive in the fabric today. As we went about doing this scan, so we were able to reconfigure the building and eventually create a 3D model of the building as it originally stood in the 14th century. Remarkably, as you can see, the main street that we're walking down here is the nave of the church, that is the main body of the church. And as you can see at the very far end, there's this huge painting, a high altar, the high altarpiece which is now in the National Gallery in London. So in the next piece of work we did, we took this painting, the altarpiece by Jacopo di Cione, and we started thinking about how we could reconfigure the church and the placement of the painting within that church. So this piece of work is a piece of research we did again with the National Gallery, and the objective was to connect the painting and the lost church. We took the model, the 3D model of the church which I was showing how we built earlier, and we reconfigured it so that it can be pulled up in your iPhone or iPad in a one-to-one scale. And this way you can walk around the church to scale and experience the relationship between the painting and the building itself. This works in Florence, but it also works in London, or indeed you can try it in your local park. Locative AR, as this is called, so location-based augmented reality, is a valuable research tool in this case for thinking about the relationship between scale of a painting and the building within which it was set. Any time you go to a museum, most of the paintings you see are divorced from their original context. That is, they're torn away from the house or the church in which they'd originally have been seen. So technology such as this, or the application of research to technology such as this, allows researchers, students, and a wider gallery-going public to understand the artwork in its context. And so this particular project, called Hidden Florence 3D, is something which has been quite successful, and we're now developing further with a number of other museums and galleries, both here in the UK and elsewhere. And what's exciting about it, I think, is the way that we can take technology to develop a piece of cutting-edge art historical research and then deliver it to anybody really that has a smartphone, and that really means most people today in the world we live in. In this particular piece of work, I've really developed something that I'd worked on earlier and I continue to work on, which is a research project or a product essentially, which you can find on the App Store and Google Play, Hidden Florence and Hidden Cities. Here we're doing something rather simpler in many ways. We're using GPS and maps, again features that are completely common on most smartphone devices and that you'll be familiar with from using Google and Apple Maps features on your phones. And through this technology, we're delivering geolocated historical walks for users. I'm sure most people will have visited at some point or another a historic city and gone to a museum and perhaps trailed around some dimly lit church looking at religious paintings. Now, what we do with Hidden Cities is in fact, we focus on the outdoors. So we're more interested in revealing the material culture of public space, that visual language that surrounds us as we walk around anywhere, the street signs and coats of arms, the urban furniture and grand houses, the ritual sites of prayer, punishment, or carnival. The aim is to reveal what's hidden in plain sight and to show how the past is inscribed in the everyday experiences of the urban realm. We've actually scripted a series of historical characters that walk you around their city, showing you their particular take on the past. Another innovative aspect of the project is the way that we're using maps in this approach. So historical maps are laid into the interface so that you're basically navigating the city. You see the blue beacon there, navigating the city using a historic map, guided by a historic character. So in a way, the augmented reality here is about helping you rethink your relationship to the past. It's a form of time travel that doesn't really require anything other than a phone. I've recently expanded this project thanks to some EU funding to make 5 new hidden cities of cities across the continent, Hamburg, Exeter, Trento, Valencia and Deventer in the Netherlands. We've also teamed up more recently with local museums to reinforce the connections between objects in their collections and the locations where the objects originally had their meaning. Here in Exeter, we're working with our local Royal Albert Memorial Museum and their brilliant collection of Elizabethan material culture, from door knockers to pub signs, water fountains to suits of makeshift armour. And more recently still, I'm actually doing this at the moment, I've taken this piece of software for making apps, and I'm using it in my teaching in a module in which students essentially make their own app and in so doing learn about place-based interpretation of art and visual culture in so doing. So then, thanks very much for watching. I hope you can see from this how digital approaches to the historic built environment have transformed my understanding and interpretation of these places, and how these projects use ubiquitous technology to deliver this research to a wider public. If you've been interested in what I've been talking about, you can find plenty more on my staff homepage, or just search for Hidden Florence or Hidden Cities on the internet. Thank you.